54 years, his grave remains as a place of honor and remembrance, drawing countless. Audie Murphy, America's most decorated soldier of World War II, is remembered as a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and resilience. Yet his life ended abruptly in a plane crash on May 28, 1971, under circumstances that have left lingering questions for over 5 decades. Initially ruled an accident caused by pilot error and poor weather, subsequent developments have fueled speculation that Murphy's death may have been more than a tragic mishap. Declassified documents, forensic reviews, and witness testimonies from 2018 to 2022 have surfaced, offering glimpses of a larger story that intersects with intelligence operations, veteran advocacy, and historical secrecy. Murphy's final years saw him deeply involved in advocating for veterans, questioning institutional practices, and confronting systemic shortcomings in post-war care. His untimely death abruptly halted these efforts, leaving a legacy that is both heroic and mysteriously unresolved, with debates continuing about whether the official account fully captures the truth behind his last flight. The fatal flight. On the morning of May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy boarded a private Aero Commander 680 at Martinsville Airport, Virginia, accompanied by 5 other individuals, including pilot Herman Butler and 4 business associates. Their destination was Roanoke, where Murphy was scheduled to meet investors. Weather conditions were challenging, with dense fog, light rain, and cloud ceilings below visual flight minimums. Despite this, Butler chose to proceed with the flight rather than delay, a decision that would prove catastrophic. Approximately 14 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft struck Brush Mountain at an elevation of 2,200 feet, killing all 6 occupants instantly. The National Transportation Safety Board later concluded that the crash resulted from pilot error compounded by adverse weather. While the official explanation appeared straightforward, early observers, including Murphy's family, noted inconsistencies with the behavior of a seasoned pilot navigating mountainous terrain. These initial doubts planted the seeds of questions that would resurface decades later as new evidence and interpretations emerged. Pilot experience and initial doubts. Herman Butler, the pilot, was an experienced aviator with over 8,000 flight hours. Many aviation experts and Murphy's family questioned why such a seasoned pilot would descend into dense fog over mountainous terrain rather than climb, turn back, or divert. Butler's reputation suggested caution and professionalism, making the crash's circumstances appear inconsistent with his known conduct. Murphy's wife, Pamela, echoed these concerns, emphasizing that her husband would not have flown with someone he believed careless. Radar data indicated a sustained low-altitude flight path rather than a momentary descent, while the debris field contained anomalies inconsistent with a typical terrain impact. Witness reports of loud sounds before the crash added further uncertainty. These details were largely dismissed or unexplored in the initial investigation, leaving a gap between the official record and the observations of those familiar with the individuals involved, creating enduring questions about what truly occurred in the final moments of the flight. Official investigation and closure. The National Transportation Safety Board completed its investigation months after the crash, attributing the accident to controlled flight into terrain, caused by pilot error and poor weather. No mechanical failures, structural defects, or pre-impact fires were reported, and the case was formally closed without criminal inquiry. At the time, the conclusions were largely accepted by the public, and media coverage quickly faded. The investigation focused narrowly on flight mechanics, overlooking anomalies raised by radar data, witness statements, and the unusual debris patterns. While the official narrative explained the event superficially, It did not address the broader context of Murphy's activities in his final months or the possibility of external factors influencing the flight. This narrow scope would later form the basis of renewed speculation, as gaps in evidence and unanswered questions became more apparent with the declassification of records decades later. Murphy's advocacy and public life. By the late 1960s, Audie Murphy had shifted focus from acting and public appearances to advocating for veterans, particularly those suffering from psychological trauma. His interest in post-war care and institutional accountability brought him into contact with veterans who experienced neglect or mistreatment. Murphy publicly acknowledged issues such as missing medical files, transfers between hospitals, and experimental procedures performed without informed consent. He also planned a television series highlighting the challenges faced by veterans and proposed legal support for those willing to speak out. Murphy's credibility as a Medal of Honor recipient and widely respected public figure lent weight to these efforts, amplifying concerns about transparency and accountability. His advocacy placed him in a position where challenging established institutions may have generated resistance, though no conclusive evidence ties his work to his death. Declassified records and surveillance. From 2018 to 2022, declassified FBI and CIA records revealed that Murphy had been monitored starting in 1969. Telephone activity, correspondence, and indirect surveillance through personal contacts suggested sustained attention from domestic intelligence programs. Former agents described the monitoring as comparable to that applied to politically sensitive public figures. While inclusion in these files does not confirm threat assessment or intent, it indicates that Murphy's activities had drawn governmental attention. These revelations added new layers to the discussion, as researchers considered whether Murphy's advocacy for veterans could have intersected with intelligence concerns. The records reinforced existing doubts about the crash while highlighting the broader environment of secrecy and oversight in which Murphy operated, complicating the official narrative of a straightforward aviation accident. Forensic reviews and anomalies. Independent forensic reviews of photographs and debris from the crash suggested stress patterns inconsistent with normal terrain impact. Experts noted pre-existing weaknesses or partial scoring on control cables, particularly the elevator, that could contribute to loss of control under vibration or turbulence. These observations could not conclusively prove sabotage, but indicated that the physical evidence alone could not rule out deliberate tampering. Other anomalies, including missing control surfaces and irregular debris patterns, fueled speculation that the crash may have involved factors beyond weather and pilot error. While these findings remain interpretive, they highlight the complexities in assessing aviation accidents decades after the event and demonstrate why renewed attention to the case persists. Witness accounts and airport observations. Late witness statements added additional uncertainty. A maintenance worker claimed to observe two unidentified individuals performing work on the aircraft the night before the flight. He was reportedly instructed to avoid discussion following the crash. Other local witnesses reported hearing sounds preceding the impact, suggesting unusual activity prior to the crash. While official investigations did not corroborate these reports, the accounts have become focal points for theorists examining potential interference or oversight lapses. These narratives illustrate how gaps in documentation and incomplete investigation leave room for interpretation, sustaining public curiosity and debate about the circumstances of Murphy's death. Proposed motives and theories. Speculation regarding Murphy's death often centers on his advocacy for veterans and potential exposure of unethical programs within the VA. Supporters of this theory argue that his credibility and public standing made him a potential whistleblower, capable of drawing attention to abuses, experimental treatments, and mismanaged resources. Murphy's investigative projects, planned television series, and efforts to support veterans willing to speak publicly positioned him as a figure of authority and influence. While no direct evidence links these activities to foul play, proponents of the theory consider them plausible motives for those seeking to limit exposure or scrutiny of institutional practices. The absence of transparent documentation fuels ongoing questions about whether Murphy's death was truly accidental or had external influence. Historical context and government oversight. The late 1960s and early 1970s were a period of heightened scrutiny of government institutions, coinciding with revelations of covert programs and unethical research practices. Congressional inquiries later confirmed the existence of experiments targeting vulnerable populations, including veterans, without informed consent. Murphy's advocacy intersected with this environment, making him a prominent voice capable of drawing public attention. Analysts note that during periods of secrecy and institutional defensiveness, figures who challenge narratives often face obstacles or suppression. While direct proof connecting Murphy's work to his death is absent, historical context provides plausible reasoning for why his efforts might have been perceived as disruptive by those in power. Legacy and continuing debate. Murphy's legacy now exists in two parallel narratives. One is celebrated and uncontested. He was a Medal of Honor recipient, war hero, and respected public figure. The other is unresolved, shaped by lingering questions about the circumstances of his death and the potential risks posed by his advocacy work. Renewed attention from declassified records, forensic reviews, and witness accounts has fueled public curiosity but has not produced definitive answers. His family's requests for additional records and independent investigations have largely been stalled, leaving the case suspended between official closure and ongoing speculation. The debate surrounding Murphy's death underscores the tension between historical record, institutional secrecy, and public perception, highlighting how unanswered questions can influence the understanding of a celebrated life.